The compounding you forfeit when you pause your own savings to fund somebody else's life is the most expensive money you will ever not spend on yourself. Withdrawal 3, delayed retirement. This is the one that breaks my heart daily when I am dealing with my clients' challenges. Parents in their early 60s tell me they will just work a few more years. That is fine plan until your body decides otherwise, or your employer decides otherwise, or until your spouse's health decides otherwise. The reality is that most Canadians do not retire on their chosen date. They retire on a date that gets chosen for them. And if you have leaned on the assumption of working till 68 or 70 and you get pushed out at 62, the gap between what you have and what you need can be devastating. Welcome to Give a Heck. I am your host, Dwight Heck, and for much of my life, lived my life in quiet desperation, wondering how I was going to pay the bills, take vacations, save for retirement, and one day wondering if I would get off the hamster wheel of life and have purpose. A life that most of society lives, which takes us to work, then home, then repeat, and pays us hopefully enough just to survive. The harsh truth that most live with more month than money and have no idea how to live life on purpose, not by accident. This ensures the mass majority are living not just financially broke, however emotionally and mentally as well due to financial pressures. In each episode, I will introduce you to thoughts, ideas, and guests that can help you to learn how you too can live life on purpose, not by accident. Welcome back to the Give a Heck podcast. I'm your host, Dwight Heck, and today I'm flying solo. No guest, just you and me, and a topic I've been turning over for a long time because I am living a piece of it myself, and I am watching my clients live the rest of it every single day. The topic is, are you caught in the middle? The Canadian sandwich generation and the quiet cost of helping everyone but yourself. If you are a parent of adult children, or you are the adult child of aging parents, or in some cases, both at the same time, this episode is for you. And if you are not there yet, but you can see it coming, this episode is for you too, because the worst place to figure this out is in the middle of it. Today, we are talking about what gets called the sandwich generation, the people who are financially and emotionally caught between supporting their adult kids on one side and supporting or preparing to support their aging parents on the other. And I'm going to be honest with you. The title sounds tidy, but the lived experience is anything but. Let me tell you why this one matters to me. I have 5 children, 4 daughters and 1 son. I raised them as a single dad through some of the hardest financial years of my life, and I will tell you, I never thought I would still be writing checks, sending e-transfers, utilizing my credit, and figuring out how to help them in their adult years. But here I am, and I will not pretend otherwise. Now, I want to be clear about something because I think it matters. I do not help all my children financially. I cannot. And frankly, I would not want to even if I could, because some of them are doing just fine on their own and they have earned the pride of standing on their own 2 feet. Where their need is real and where helping makes sense, I help. That is the line I try to walk. Help where it is needed and resist the temptation to rescue where it is not. My kids are not lazy. They are working. They are trying. But the world they are trying in is not the world I started in. A house in British Columbia or Alberta is no longer a starter purchase for most young adults. Rent has become a wealth transfer from their pocket to someone else's. Groceries have nearly doubled in some categories, and the wages have not kept pace. So when I look at my adult kids, I'm not looking at failure. I am looking at a generation that needs longer runway than mine did, and I have had to make peace with that. But making peace with it does not mean writing a blank check, and that is where most parents get into trouble. November of 2025, a polling firm called iPaaS released a study they conducted for RBC, and it put a number on something I've felt in my chest for years. 53% of Canadian parents of kids aged 13 to 24 feel negatively about their children's financial future. 71% say that stress about their own kids' finances and about their kids' financial future is affecting their well being. Now, think about what that actually means, because it is not just a statistic. It starts as quiet desperation in the middle of a Tuesday afternoon when a parent is sitting at their desk doing mental math on whether they can keep up. It shows up in racing thoughts during a workout. It shows up in a short fuse with their spouse over something small. And then, yes, eventually it shows up in their sleep patterns, the 3 a.m. wake ups, the lying there staring at the ceiling. And from there, it begins to affect mental health, physical health, energy levels, relationships, absolutely everything. That is what 71% really looks like when you walk into it from the inside. And here's the part that does not show up in this survey, but shows up in my practice every week. The parents who are losing sleep are the same parents who are quietly rating their own retirement to keep their adult kids afloat. And that is a problem I want to talk about today, because it is bigger than money. It is about living on purpose and not by accident. The data now, I want to be clear about something before I go further. What I'm about to describe is similar in most countries in the world right now. Wherever you are listening from, the United States, the United Kingdom, Australia, parts of Europe, the dynamics are remarkably similar. Adult kids needing more support for longer, housing markets that have outrun wages, aging populations needing care. So if you're tuning in, from outside Canada, you will still recognize this story. That said, let me give you the lay of the land in Canada in 2026, because the specifics are useful and the lessons travel. Statistics Canada tells us that more than 1 in 3 Canadian young adults under the age of 34 are living with at least one parent. In Ontario, it is over 40%. In Toronto, specifically, nearly half. In British Columbia and Alberta, the rates are climbing year over year as housing costs have outrun wage growth. That is not a moral failure on the part of young adults. That is math. The math says that for many of them, moving out and renting alone would mean spending 60, 70, sometimes 80% of their take-home pay on housing alone, before food, before transportation, before a single dollar gets saved for their own future. So they stay home or they come back home and the parents make space. And that is fine. That is healthy in many cultures and has been for generations. But here's what the data also tells us. Statistics Canada released a study just this year showing that in these intergenerational households, the financial support flows primarily from the older generation down to the younger. The parents are subsidizing. And listen to this number, because it stopped me cold. Parents between the age of 65 and 69 living with their adult children have a 32% employment rate compared to the 24.6% for the others in the age group. Parents who should be retired, who have earned their retirement, are working into their late 60s because their adult kids still need help. That is the sandwich, and it is getting thicker. Now, let me touch on the other side of the sandwich briefly, because I know some of you are dealing with this too. Aging parents, if you have a parent who is moving forward toward needing care, here are the Canadian numbers as of 2026. Alberta long-term residential care subsidized rates run roughly $1,700 to $2,200 a month. Private facilities anywhere from $4,200 to up to $14,000 a month, depending on the level of care. British Columbia is in the same ballpark, with the health authority covering some costs and residents paying based on income. But the gaps are real and they are growing. So if you're looking at supporting adult kids on one side and possibly contributing to care costs for a parent on the other side, while still trying to fund your own retirement, you are not imagining the pressure. The math is real. I want to walk you through what I call the three individual withdrawals. They are the three ways the sandwich generation quietly bleeds their own financial future without realizing it, because nobody is putting a number on it. As it happens, withdrawal one, direct financial support, cell phone bills, car insurance, groceries when they come over, the occasional emergency loan that never quite gets repaid. None of it feels like a big deal in the moment. $100 here, $250 there, but add it up over a year, and many parents are spending $5,000 to $10,000 annually supporting adult kids. Multiply that by 10 years, and you're looking at $50,000 to $100,000 that did not go into your TFSA, your RRSP, or any other vehicle that compounds for your retirement. Withdrawal two, opportunity costs. This one is more invisible than the first. When parents redirect money towards kids, they often skip their own contribution year or years. They tell themselves they will catch up later, but there's no catching up when it comes to compounding. A dollar you do not invest in your 40s is not a dollar you lose. It is closer to $4 or $5 you lose by the time you would have retired. The compounding you forfeit when you pause your own savings to fund somebody else's life is the most expensive money you will ever not spend on yourself. Withdrawal three, delayed retirement. This is the one that breaks my heart daily when I am dealing with my clients' challenges. Parents in their early 60s tell me they will just work a few more years. That is fine plan until your body decides otherwise, or your employer decides otherwise, or until your spouse's health decides otherwise. The reality is that most Canadians do not retire on their chosen date. They retire on a date that gets chosen for them. And if you have leaned on the assumption of working till 68 or 70 and you get pushed out at 62, the gap between what you have and what you need can be devastating. These three withdrawals do not show up on a statement. There is no line item that says you are sacrifice $60,000 of compounded retirement growth to subsidize your son or daughter's apartment, but the dollars are gone all the same. Mindset and intentionality. Now, here's where Give a Heck has always been different from traditional financial businesses. Because if you give your numbers and stop, I've only done half the job, the other half is asking the harder question. Why are you doing this? And what do you actually want your life to look like on the other side of it? Most clients I sit down with have never asked themselves that question out loud. They are running on autopilot. Adult kids need help. Send the e-transfer, write the check, hand over the cash. Parent needs something, figure it out. Spouse mentions retirement, change the subject. That is living by accident. Living on purpose means stopping long enough to ask three questions. What kind of a parent do I want to be to my adult children? Not what they want me to be, not what guilt tells me I should be, what I actually want to be. Because there's a version of helping that grows them up, and there's a version that keeps them small. And I would argue gently that handing over money without conversation tends to keep them small. Second question, what kind of son or daughter do I want to be to my aging parents? If that becomes part of my picture, have I had the hard conversations? Do I know if they have a will? Do I know if they have power of attorney in place? Do I know what their wishes are if their health changes? Because the time to ask is not the day after the stroke. Third question, what do I want my own retirement to look like? And am I willing to actually protect that vision instead of giving it away one transfer at a time? Living on purpose means having the courage to say to your adult child, I love you. And the answer is no. Their answer is yes, but with conditions. Their answer is yes for 3 months, and then we sit down again. That is not unkind. That is parenting an adult. Practical, financial, all right, let's get practical. I have been in this industry since September of 2001. So we are talking about more than just 24 years of sitting across the table from Canadian families. And in all those years, one of the most damaging myths I have I keep running into is the idea there is one right tool for everything. There is not. There is a toolkit, and the smart play is matching the right tool to the right job. Let me walk you through the ones I work with most often. Before I do, I want you to hold one idea in your mind through this whole segment. Everyone's financial picture is like their fingerprint. Very different, very unique. What works beautifully for your neighbor may be the wrong move for you, and the opposite is also true. So, as I describe each of these tools, do not hear me saying you need all of them or any specific one. Hear me saying these are the pieces, and the art is figuring out which pieces fit your life. RRSP, the Registered Retirement Savings Plan. The RRSP is often described as the default retirement vehicle in Canada. And for some people, that is true. Contributions reduce your taxable income today. The money grows tax sheltered, and you pay tax when you draw it down in retirement. When you are in a higher tax bracket today than you expect to be in retirement, maxing out your RRSP can absolutely make sense. The tax deduction now is worth more than the tax you will eventually pay on the way out in most cases. But here's the part most people are not told. For others, the RRSP may not be the centerpiece of their plan at all. It may not even be part of their plan in their early years. Some clients are better served by maxing out their TFSA first, building up non-registered investments, and only turning to the RRSP after these vehicles are maxed out, if at all. Because if you're going to land in roughly the same tax bracket in retirement as you are in now or higher, the RSP loses much of its leverage. It becomes a tax deferral with no tax arbitrage, which is a very different proposition. TFSA, the tax-free savings account. The TFSA flips the mechanics. You contribute after tax dollars, the money grows tax-free forever, and the withdrawals come out tax-free. No tax on the way in was as it was already paid, no tax on growth, no tax on the way out. For many Canadians, particularly those who expect to draw a comfortable retirement income or who have flexibility along the way, the TFSA is one of the most powerful tools we have. If life turns sideways, you can access the funds without triggering tax, without affecting government benefits in retirement, and without disturbing any other part of your plan. Non-registered investments. Non-registered accounts have no contribution limits, no withdrawal rules, and unlimited room to invest. The trade-off is that you pay tax on the gains as they happen. But here is what most people miss. For some clients, that is actually the point. Paying taxes as it grows, often at favorable capital gains and dividend rates, means there is no tax bomb waiting for you on distribution. You have already settled up along the way. For a high income earner who has maxed the TFSA, or for someone whose RSP could create more problems than it solves at retirement, non registered investments become a strategic cornerstone, not an afterthought. Spousal RRSPs. If one spouse earns significantly more than the other, the higher earner contributes to a spousal RRSP in the lower earning spouse's name. In retirement, withdrawals are taxed in the lower earning spouse's hands. This is income splitting done right. It is one of the most underused strategies I see. Permanent life insurance with cash value. When this makes sense and when a person can fund it correctly, it is a great way to shelter money and create the potential for tax-free income to live on in retirement, while also leaving money to the next generation tax-free. That is powerful combination when it fits. I want to be honest though. It is not for everyone. For many families, it is simply another financial cost on a budget that is already strained, and forcing it into a plan where it does not belong does more harm than good. When it fits, it is exceptional. When it does not, it is the wrong tool. Knowing the difference is the work. So, when you put RRSP, TFSA, and non registered together, what you often end up with is not one of them winning. It is a combination calibrated to your fingerprint. For one family, the right answer is RRSP heavy. For another, it is TFSA first and non registered second, with RRSP barely used or not used at all. For a third, is a blended approach using all three in measured proportions, which each account doing the job it does best. There's no universal right answer here, only the right answer for you. Segregated funds. There are many types of investment vehicles that can hold your passengers, which can be stocks, bonds, GICs, ETFs, mutual funds, and portfolios. Brokerage accounts, mutual fund accounts, robo advisors, group plans, through work, the list goes on, and each has its own place depending on what you are trying to accomplish. After more than 24 years of sitting across the table from Canadian families, the one that I've found the most effective for many of my clients is a segregated fund, and here's why. Segregated funds are an insurance based investment product, which means they come with features traditional mutual funds and brokerage accounts simply cannot offer. You can get maturity and death benefit guarantees that protect a portion of your principal regardless of what the markets do. You can get potential creditor protection, which matters enormously if you are a business owner, a professional, or anyone exposed to liability risk. You can name a beneficiary directly on the account, which means at death, the money bypasses probate entirely, transferring privately, quickly, and often with significant cost savings to your estate. They typically cost a bit more than a comparable mutual fund because you're paying for those insurance features and benefits. But for the right client, these features earn their keep many times over. It is not the right tool for every situation, but when it fits beautifully. Before I wrap, I want to give you something to do this week. Not a worksheet, not a download, a conversation. If you have adult kids you are supporting, sit them down, not in anger, not in frustration, with love, and say something like this: I love you. I want to keep helping you, and I need to be honest with you about what that help is costing me. I am not retiring on schedule if this continues. I need us to look at this together, set a timeline, and build a plan that gets you to independence and protects my future at the same time. That conversation, done well, will change your family. I have seen it happen in my client work. The adult child does not feel attacked, they feel respected. And often they did not realize the weight they were placing on you because you never put it into words. And if you have aging parents, have a different conversation. Ask about the will. Ask about the powers of attorney. Ask what they would want if their health changed. Not because you are morbid, because you love them, and because the cost of waiting until a crisis to ask these questions is measured in dollars and in heartbreak. I want to leave you with this. When I look back at my own financial journey, the years where I was a single full-time dad living paycheck to paycheck, the years where I figured out how money actually works, and the years now where I'm supporting some of my adult kids while also trying to build something I am proud to leave behind, I keep coming back to one truth. Living on purpose is not a one time decision. It is a daily choice. It is a choice to know your numbers. It is a choice to have the conversation you have been avoiding. It is a choice to say yes when yes is right and no when no is right, and to do both with love. The sandwich generation pressure is real. The financial weight is real. The emotional weight is real, but you do not have to carry it by accident. You can carry it on purpose, and those are two completely different lives. If anything I have shared today landed for you, I want you to know something. I do this work for a living, not as a hobby, not as content. I sit down with families every week and help them build the kind of coordinated strategy I talked about earlier. Now, I want to be straight with you about how I can help. I am licensed to actually help clients in Alberta and British Columbia in Canada with the products and services I've been describing in this episode. So, if you're in those two provinces, we can go the full distance together. But here's the thing I want you to hear clearly. Even if you're listening from somewhere else in Canada, somewhere else in the world, I can still help you figure out the money monsters you're wrestling with right now. Because the truth is, we all need to understand a few things no matter where we live. Where are we right now, honestly? Where do we want to be in the near future? Where do we want to be heading into retirement and during retirement? And what about estate planning? How do you want to help the next generations where possible once we have passed? Those questions do not stop at a provincial border. They follow you everywhere. And I can sit down with anyone who wants to think those questions through with someone who has been doing this for over 24 years. You can find me at giveaheck.com and the contact information is right there. I would rather have the conversation with you now than meet you in 5 years wishing we had talked sooner. To everyone listening and watching, thank you for investing your time with me today. If this episode resonated with you, please share it. When you share an episode, it helps this message reach more people so they too can give a heck and live with purpose and intention. Please subscribe to the Give a Heck podcast on your favorite platform and or on YouTube and leave a review. It makes more of a difference than you know. Until next time, live life on purpose, not by accident. And remember, it is never too late to give a heck. Thank you for taking time out of your day and listening to Give a Heck. If you find value, I'd appreciate you sharing with your friends and family so they too can learn how to live life on purpose, not by accident. So you do not miss the next episode, please subscribe on your favorite podcast platform and please also post a review. I look forward to reading your comments. This has been Dwight Heck. If you want to check out other podcast episodes or today's show notes, please check out my website, giveaheck.com. And until next time, together let us all strive to give a heck.